What is life? Why am I here? How is it all connected? And how am I going to navigate this beautiful but crazy journey? I'm Sylvia and welcome to the Soul Sunshine podcast. Today I'm talking to Igor Kreyman. Igor is the founder of the Human Connection Movement, a global movement which is connecting and dissolving barriers between people. Igor is passionate about amplifying cohesion and interconnection within groups, as well as assisting students, organizations, and leadership teams to become better communicators. Over the last 5 years, Igor has worked with corporations to increase employee productivity, connected children in schools, facilitated mass meditations, and has impacted over 50,000 people with 400 plus events across 20 countries. He believes that whilst we are all living in the most digitally connected time in history, we are more socially disconnected than ever before, and is focused on facilitating solutions for those that struggle with loneliness, social isolation, and mental health challenges. Welcome to the Soul Sunshine podcast, Igor. It's so awesome to have you on here today.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been looking forward to having a chat with you and having a yarn. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Same. Really looking forward to our conversation. So Igor, just a few things that we're going to be talking about today. We're pretty much going to be talking about your journey to what led you to creating the Human Connection Movement, and then the Human Connection Method, and what that involves, and how people of really all ages and from all walks of life can benefit from implementing your work. So why don't we just jump into it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on. I'm on Bundjalung country in the Northern Rivers, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. I feel very supported by this land and the people of this land and, everything around me. I feel very grateful for my parents, Eugene and Irina Kreyman, and beautiful synchronicities that have been happening as of late. So yeah, that's kind of where I reside right now.
Thank you for reminding me of that as well. I would also like to acknowledge the custodians of the land where I am at, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay the respect to all elders, past, present, and emerging. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for reminding me. Igor, as a starting point, maybe just tell our audience where you're coming from, what's your background, and what was it that led you to the work that you do now. The Human Connection Movement is a lot about the eye gazing, and we're going to be talking a lot about that. But what was it that initially inspired you, or that initially made you think like there's something more there, there's something else there when you look into somebody's eyes?
I came across eye gazing kind of by accident. It wasn't something that I had seeked out, even though the feeling of feeling intimately connected to someone is something that I've always deeply desired. For it to be represented through the form of purely looking into someone's eyes, I would have never have expected that to happen in that way. As a kid, my dad threw me into acting school, and he thought, it might do him well. He's a little bit shy, and I think he always had that dream of being an actor as well. So acting kind of provided me with an outlet to do a lot of sense making around what it is to be human and to explore the human condition and to explore the edges of myself and have fun and play and just discover more. And as I grew, I was really noticing the rigidity and the conformity within our society, within the social conditioning that limited the human expression of the soul through the body. And that was the number one thing for me, that I felt I was never taught in school how to be human, how to play with other humans. And we were only given a template on how to relate on a surface level. And there was a subservience to the surface, an allegiance to the surface, because everyone was doing that. And from a very early age, I always had this sort of rebellious, eccentric, paradigm shifter breaker mentality without me realizing it. But at that time, it actually caused me a lot of pain and suffering, because I was always on the outer edges of society and looking at everything kind of not quite feeling like I fit in or I belonged, and running these like experiments in a natural way, with my sense of humor, for example, which was just different to everyone else's. And yeah, so that was kind of part of finding my way in the world and understanding that there's something that doesn't feel quite right. And so the acting gave me more of an outlet to express myself. And then the eye gazing I came across maybe only just, I don't know, like, I don't remember anymore, like 10 years ago or something like that. And I came across it through an exhibition with Marina Abramovich, who is a performance artist. And I walked into a warehouse where anyone off the street could experience the life of a performance artist. And one of the exercises was eye gazing, and everyone was really quiet. And we had a noise canceling headphones on. And what happened was I was just like really perplexed by what was going on. I had no sort of real understanding as to what I was supposed to do, because I sat down on this chair and I was sitting opposite someone I'd never seen before. And there was no direction as to what needed to actually be done. And so I just sat there looking in that person's eyes. And I found out that to be called eye gazing. And I was like, right, great. That's powerful. But there's a lot more deeper stuff that was happening in that experience. I felt the beginning of a deep coming home to myself, because I was seeing the reflection of myself in the other person's eyes. And I'd never experienced anything like that in my entire life, where I was experiencing a complete intimacy with a stranger, and not a sexualized intimacy, not intimacy in the way that we're sort of told to perceive it as a objectification or a commodity. It's more, it was the purest form of love. It was an intimacy that was just an observationalist sort of experience that allowed me to feel deeper parts of myself in that other person. It allowed me to realize that there's more than the physical body, that there's a soul there. Even though I couldn't quite articulate it, I could feel it. And the beauty with eye gazing is you don't need to articulate the ineffable, because the ineffable doesn't have a name. And you can't name something that is ineffable. So it was perfect for me, and it just really opened me up, and it put me on the path that I'm on now.
And so, like in that first really intimate experience, like you said, what was it that happened to you after that? You know, you said for the first time you kind of felt that you were seeing yourself in somebody else's eyes, and you kind of really was looking into your soul rather than just, looking at yourself as a construct, I guess. Like, how did that change the way you were looking at yourself and at the world moving forward from that experience?
That's a good question. Yeah, I really noticed that all of the identities that I'd created had certain layers. So identities and personalities that deviated from the actual purity and essence that I am, which is formless and one with everything. And that's how we all are. Except we come into this world and we box ourselves in, and we give ourselves we acquire certain beliefs and values and characteristics, and we try to fit into a social fabric within that capacity. And that works to a certain point, but then we hit this bottleneck. And in my life, I hit a bottleneck really deeply. And it was so jarring that it was the most painful experience, which is why I've searched for meaning in such a way, because I've like felt the jarringness of the architecture of the limitation of the human expression, you know? So when I was gazing into these humans' eyes, I went back for like 2 or 3 days. I was just really feeling the profundity and expansion and limitlessness that exists within the human experience, and also the pain and the suffering and the sadness in the areas that I'd limited myself. So being able to feel, the vehicle of feeling, the technology of feeling, actually provided me with the capacity to move beyond the mind, because the mind tries to trap you. The mind's a great tool. We need to become friends with the mind. We need to learn how to use the mind. But if we don't understand how the mind operates, the mind can imprison us. And that's what happened to me. And I'm not saying that I don't still get into like patterns which affect my thinking, course, I'm a human being, but my awareness of who I am gets me out of it a lot sooner than I did 8 years ago. You know, something that may have taken me months could take me 5 minutes. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's beautiful. When you're saying you've really hit the bottleneck and you saw that you were kind of caught up in the construct that was being made up around you, do you wanna go there a little bit? Do you wanna explain
Yeah.
what that
Ah,
was and how that came to be and how you then started to work your way through that?
well, the design here is it's a big design, you know, like it's a design on a blueprint level from a societal construct, and you're entering this architecture and design from the moment that you're a baby, you know, and when you're coming into a landscape that is very specific around conformity and not stepping out of the tribal patterning and the mind scape of how everything works, it can be quite disruptive to the soul because the soul wants to express itself, it wants to learn, it wants to grow, it wants to communicate with trees, it wants to feel the soil the same way children are so intuitive. They're so curious. You know, how many times do you go to a cafe and you see like a 3-year-old and they just look at you with this awe, or like they look at you in this certain way that you like, I don't know what the description is for that word, but they have this sensibility to them which is innocent, and we lose that innocence. And the bottleneck in our society is that we're told to conform and to be a certain way and to fit in, and when you're fitting in, you're not doing yourself any justice. You're not actually allowing yourself to feel the full expression of who you are, and that becomes the bottleneck, and that becomes jarring. So eye gazing for me, and just the whole artistry, the archetype of the artist, which is just stepping outside of the norm and creating something different. And you don't need to be an actor or a dancer or a filmmaker or whatever to be an artist. You can be a gardener, you can be a beekeeper. It's just like the motivation in which how you express the love that you experience within you out and into the world, and the dimensional reality that you create from that place. And I think that we're missing a lot of the art that comes from our hearts, from our lives. We're missing the really simple things that we think are not important, and we're told they're not important. Like, oh, art's not important. Like, don't worry about that. Like, just focus on making money, making sure you got enough money to pay the deposit, making sure you can go on holiday, your kids are happy. Just make sure you got all those things happening. Go on the weekend to the nice restaurant. Just, you need to make sure you have enough money in the bank, mate. It's like that kind of, when we're just focusing on that, it can serve people to a certain degree and it can make them feel satisfied. And if we're just concentrating on the material, financial wealth accumulation, it'll make you feel satisfied to a certain degree. But you will get to a certain point in your evolution where if you are not feeling and experiencing and expressing the essence that you are, life will provide you challenges in the form of experiences that may be sometimes quite jarring or intense or unexpected, in order for you to feel, process, and to experience yourself as you are, as more than what you think you're capable of, because we all have to evolve. We all need to ascend. We're all evolving and growing. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I haven't decided that. That's just the way nature works. But everyone has their own timing, everyone has their own process. And I don't project onto anyone or anything how it should be. I just observe and speak about how it is.
There was a lot of things in there. The first thing that comes to mind, it's like when people just are after ticking the boxes, like you said, you've got the job, you've got the house, you've got the kids, and you're just like living that life, but you kind of forget about everything that's your true essence within it. You're like, but what do I actually need as a person, or who am I really? I mean, the question who am I is a whole other story, right? Because who are we? But when you're talking about conforming as well, it's kind of like that, doing what everybody else is doing, and then you think you're doing life right, but really kind of stopping and feeling into yourself and being like, is what my friend doing really the right thing for me, or is it just where you're copying other people as well? Because I have this really funny story. So my oldest son, he just started school, and he had his graduation from daycare, right? And they were all put in those graduation outfits, you know, those American graduation outfits. And he just did not want to wear it. And first I tried to make him wear it. And then I was like, you know what? If he doesn't want to wear it, like, don't wear it, you know? And then I just kind of surrendered to the fact that he just doesn't want to wear it. It's fine. Like, why does he need to wear it? So he was the only one sitting up on stage, you know, in his yellow hoodie, and everybody else was wearing the graduation outfits. And when I look at the photo now, it's so funny because first of all, he like stands out like this peacock. But then second of all the other kids look really sad. They all just sit there like this. And Max sits there like, hello, you know, and it was just almost that realization that I had afterwards. And then I was like, keep doing what you're doing, buddy. Like, walk your own way, like, tread your own path, you know. Don't just do what everybody else wants from you or expect. It's almost like that expectation that people have. And I think as a parent, that's also a lot of the time you go like, okay, where do I actually need to parent and where can I just let them do whatever they want to be? Because that's really what we should be doing, right? Supporting their journey and, you know, letting them be, really. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Honestly, like you said it better than I did. Like if we just said that and ended the podcast, because that's it. Like if you allow the child in you to express him or herself and to operate outside of the structural conformity or just whatever it is that's being regulated within the schooling system that we all know isn't helpful. Like everyone knows that it's not working. The education system isn't working to its optimal capacity. It's working maybe 20, 30% to what our actual abilities are. So when I see representation of just being able to wear what you want and feel, I think that really allows the progression for things to move forward into the direction that we need them to move towards. So it's nice to hear.
Yeah, and it's now, even now he goes to school and he needs to wear his uniform every day, and there is unfortunately no other option, you know, in Australia. Like if you go to public school, whatever, you just have to wear the uniform. And he hates it, like every day. He's like, I don't want to wear this uniform. And my heart breaks for him every day because I don't want him to wear a stupid uniform either, you know. I grew up in a country where there was no school uniforms, you know. So I get where he's coming from, but I'm like, oh, it's hard sometimes where you're like, oh, you have to, but I know you don't want to, and I don't want you either, but yeah.
I feel you. I feel
Lots
you.
of learnings through that.
Yeah.
So, Igor, you were talking about when, you know, at some point experiences happen in your life or something happens where people kind of have to start looking at themselves and what they have done, because there's like a burnout or there is, you know, different experiences, a breakup, whatever it may be, you know, where you go like, oh, did I actually live the life that I want to live, or did I live the life that other people wanted me to live? So when you're looking at that level and the, you know, scales of consciousness as well in your experience, do you feel like it happens to everyone?
Yes.
Do you feel like everybody is getting there at some point?
You think everyone gets like smashed when they need to get smashed? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, we've all been smashed, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of answers it. Yeah.
100%. From what I understand, the way the algorithm of the universe works in that capacity, the extent to which you resist that in which you need to feel, see, and experience is the extent in which an outer manifestation will come through in order to test you so that you can move through the area within you that's unresolved. You know, that's why I'm always aware of like, what's the part of me that I'm hiding from? Or like, where do I say that I'm embodying something that I'm actually not embodying at all, or only embodying like 5% of it or half of 30%? I don't know, whatever, right? And of course, that's the case in certain areas because the ego will be like, oh, no, I got that. And then do you really have it? And here's an experience for you to be tested in that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, plus we never stop learning, right? That's the other thing. Like once you are on that journey, it's like you might start embodying something to a degree, but it will keep giving you little bits and pieces of what you need in order to keep growing in that direction, right? Because it is a journey, and it's a soul journey on this planet, I guess, where you're kind of trying to work through that. And so once you start doing the work, that's what I find as well, is you just never stop, because there's always that next step of where you need to go or what you would love to work on yourself.
Yeah. And it to simplify it, it's not like an arduous sort of experience where you need to be in this space of like, oh, I need to do the work and like, this is hard or whatever. It's the way I see it is like there's your whole soul essence, like the whole configuration of this infinite multiplicity of expression of the divine or whatever term that works for you, of heaven or of miracle mindedness, or if you're religious, or even if you're not, of Christ consciousness, which is the experience of everything in its highest ascended state. And when you have this desire to live beyond, to move beyond the confines of the mind and just experience something different, your soul is there waiting for you to acknowledge it, and it'll help you. It's just about calling the soul into the body. And when you feel that you're more than the physical, when you feel you're not alone, that's when life gets interesting. It's one thing to be like, okay, I'm going to go and feel like I'm just this human being, right? Having a human experience, and I'm going to acquire health and wealth and happiness. And, you'll only get to a certain level in the game. Like, you can't pass level 3 or whatever, right? Because level 3 requires for you to realize that you are a part of God. God expresses itself within you, and not God from even a religious sense, just God from a point of consciousness. So I don't want to isolate people that are not religious. I'm not religious. I'm the furthest thing from being religious. I just respond to what I have direct experiences from. And I'm definitely not just Igor Kreyman. Igor Kreyman is just a manifestation of a personal reality that I've created through a personality.
It's an identity, right, that you've been given, really.
Yeah, and most of the time I just do my best to try to express something that I really have no idea about, and that's okay. Right now I feel this sense of like this feeling in my body where it's like you can't articulate something that doesn't have a name. But it's nice to talk about it. But once you realize that all you really need to do is surrender, that's when the energy starts to move more freely through your body. That's when things become more clear to you. You go, I don't need to know. I just want to be guided. I want to be shown. Show me the way. I surrender. I'm sick of the old patterns that have kept me in this mindless loop. I'm ready to craft a new reality, a reality that reflects my highest desires and ambitions and dreams. And these are what my dreams are. Show me how I can come into direct alignment with those dreams. That's the dialogue. That's it. Like it's simple. It's not like you need to get a doctorate around philosophy and study with a guru in India, or you don't need to do any of those things. Like you can be spiritual just being a surfer or playing golf or whatever. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's who you're being. People mistake that. And and I did as well. And this is like really actually alive for me right now is we spend our lives trying to create something outside of ourselves in the form of a business or a service, not realizing that who we are is the creation, and that's what's benefiting people, not the part of ourselves that we're trying to help other people with that's outside of ourselves. That's just an extension of an aspect or a fragmentation of us that we're trying to, the human connection movement, for example, a global movement connecting, dissolving barriers between people. It sounds really nice. I have held a lot of events over the last 6 years. We have helped a lot of people. It has been a really great experience, but it's not who I am. And if I identify as that, I will be miserable. And I have been. And I limit the expression and ability for my soul to express itself through my body when I hold on to just a small aspect of who I am. It really comes down to who we are and expressing who we are and knowing that everything comes from us. It's like we are the kingdom and the temple and the waters and the river and the earth. It's all inside of us. And we don't need to create anything outside of us in order to make ourselves feel better, to validate our self worth, because everything that we self realize within ourselves will then become a material manifestation on the outside.
Yeah, and we are all one, right, at the end of the day, because it is all energy. And I find this is such an important point that you've mentioned as well, because you know that whole being versus doing and people identifying what they do rather than who they are. I think that is, in my experience, that's a big narrative that runs through our society. You know, people identify through their jobs, they identify through their cars, through their houses, through their families, you know. So I would love to unpack that a little bit more as well, and looking at the human connection method, you know, that you created,
Mm-hmm.
and how that can help people to see some of those creations that they've made themselves, you know, and how they can, I guess, strip that back a little bit and come back more to their self rather than being identified by their outside world.
The human connection method is a framework for people to basically reschool themselves around what it means to be human. We didn't learn how to breathe properly. We didn't learn how to look at people, how to engage with people, how to be present with people, how to breathe with people, how to observe what someone is saying objectively, how to surrender into an experience that feels uncomfortable, how to relax with other people without alcohol being involved or other distractions like sports or whatever. We haven't learned how to do really basic fundamental stuff, and it's really basic. The method is so basic in terms of explaining what it is, but at the same time, it's really powerful and profound in the experience of it. And eye gazing is a vehicle, a tunnel, not a tunnel, but like a portal for a deep rehumanization and reorientation within your connection to yourself and other people and the world around you. If you feel disconnected from yourself, if you feel disconnected from your family or society or anything around you, this is a really powerful tool. I'd say one of the most powerful tools to really come and lock into who you are instantly and at least go on that process of discovering so much of the variation of who you are, which is infinite, but it brings you into yourself in that moment when you're eye gazing with someone. So it brings you into coherence with the person. And I can see an eagle right now.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, because that was my question. You know, what's the purpose of eye gazing? What happens on a
Yeah.
physiological and psychological level when you're looking into somebody's eyes?
Well, the purpose is to dissolve barriers between people. So, loneliness, social isolation, anxiety, disconnection is rampant, especially during COVID. There's some crazy figures I heard. So number one, like that's already amazing in terms of like the residual impact of looking into someone's eyes, which people don't even do, even when they're with them. We don't look into we look for a few seconds and we look away. We talk from people from a distance. Like our faces won't be necessarily facing each other all the time, which is fine. You're honoring your boundaries, but there's a whole universe in that experience that you're not providing yourself with the ability to feel into. And I'll explain why people don't go there. It's because they don't feel safe. They don't have safety. They don't have boundaries. They don't know how to exercise their boundaries in a nice, healthy way. So in the methodology, we provide even before we go into the eye gazing ways for people to feel like they trust one another. They feel seen before it even begins. And it only takes like a minute or two, you know?
What would be an example for that?
So one exercise is basically both of them raising the right palms and touching. And then I say, like in front of each other, because they're sitting opposite each other. And then I say to them, I only want you to drop your hands when you feel like you trust one another. And I want you to feel the level of coherence and sensitivity around that. I don't want one person that feels they trust the other person to drop their hands. You both need to do it at the same time as though you were one spirit in two bodies.
So it's playing on the energies that both bodies bring to that exercise.
Exactly. And that's what the whole experience is. So once they learn how to experience an equal exchange of giving and receiving, which is essentially what a healthy use of boundaries is, because you trust one another, there's an equal display of energy moving through, and there's more vitality, there's more life force, there's more excitement, and there's more potential for growth and development in that connection. And then once they kind of drop their hands, I guide them through experiences that allow them to deepen their connection in their heart and to move from their head to their heart. Because there's a process of like observing someone and feeling a little bit like uncomfortable and like in your head and like thinking and going, no, so you need to surrender all of that. That's not going to serve you in this experience now. We need you to move from your head to your heart and start to breathe through your heart and to surrender and to let go and to soften. And there's a whole different variation of exercises that involve movement, dance, and the hands and the hips and the body sitting down, standing up, different sort of experiments that I've run, which have become exercises because they've been so successful and in regards to healing and connecting and amplifying love.
It's really interesting because I suggested to my husband that we should start eye gazing. And that was about, I'd say it was mid last year for the first time. And he was like, he just thought it was really weird, right?
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I was like, okay, we should really start doing this. We should try this out, right? And he was like, oh, I don't know. I don't really want to. And now I've got him there. So now I've actually finally said to him, okay, every night when the kids go to sleep, we sit down and we look
Wow.
into each other's eyes for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And we actually started doing it. We've been a bit slack this last week. But it's really interesting now hearing from you as well that people don't feel safe. And like his initial reaction as well was this, oh, this is really weird. It's really weird looking into your eyes for 5 minutes.
It is.
So I'm like, thanks, mate. But it's, it is like he said, it does almost feel uncomfortable because it's not something we constantly do. And like you said, even when we have a conversation, we look at someone, but then we look away and we look
Yeah.
down to our notes and we look here and we look there. So actually really sitting and looking into somebody's eyes
Yeah.
makes people really quite uncomfortable. And I find that interesting. And now that you said that as well, it's just fascinating how such a basic thing, or what you believe is such a basic thing, can be actually quite challenging and difficult and jarring for a person when they first start to try it out.
And I agree, it is weird in the beginning. Like, I'm not gonna say it's not weird.
Yeah.
It is. But I've had people that are they've been looking at our events for 2 years and 3 years and watching them and but not having the courage to come, and then they come and they're like, hey, I've been watching your events for 2 or 3 years and I was literally shitting myself. Like I just couldn't come here.
Yeah.
But I'm here now and I'm like, cool, have a seat, you know? And then and I'm watching them specifically in the beginning when I'm guiding everyone because there'll be a group of 20 or 30 people usually between that amount. And I watched them kind of, they look fine on the surface, but you can tell they're shitting themselves on the inside with the first person they're looking at. And then my job always as a practitioner is to ensure everyone moves from their head to their heart and they feel relaxed and safe straight away. So, and then there's music playing and it becomes easy. It becomes like clockwork because you've done something enough times and you're good at it. But it's just always a pleasure to see the person shift from their head to their heart. And then this kind of like facial expression that shifts in their, not just in their face, but their whole body. Like they're like, oh my God, like, why was I freaking out? Like, that was actually sweet. Like, it's like you riding the bike for the first time. You need to get on the bike. I'd say it's easier than riding a bike because on the bike you can fall over. You need like one of your parents to hold you sometimes. The other person's holding you in this experience, and they're always there. They don't wait for you to ride for a few seconds so you can get onto your own feet. They're always there for you. And then you find your own feet, and then it's a mutual exchange. And then after these people that have been petrified finished, the first few eye gazings, and we have a small 5-minute break, they come over and they're like, they don't say anything, or if they do, or I see them go to the bathroom and I walk past and they smile at me and I'm like, I told you. Like, I don't say I told you, but I psychically kind of, I go, mate, it's all good, like, and if everyone understood that, like if there was like this big solar flash that went on in the earth, and all of a sudden in this like solar flash communicated this one message of like, it's simple, just look into someone's eyes, and this is how you can do it in a safe way, because we need safety. There's a lot of violence on this earth and domestic abuse, and not everyone
Trauma.
trauma, not everyone lives in the same condition. So I'm not preaching like, oh, everyone just like go in a circle and like sing kumbaya and everything's gonna be all right. Like I'm pretty,
Wouldn't that be nice?
I mean, yeah, it's great, but like it's not, maybe we'll get there in maybe 5 years, but like right now it's just there's a lot of diversity in what's going on the planet, and very simple things like feeling safe within your nervous system and being able to hold some intimate eye contact with people and really be present with them can be so much more powerful than anything else.
I love your optimism, by the way. Maybe we get there in 5 years. I like that. That's really optimistic.
Well,
When we're talking on a world level,
I,
I'm like, I'm with you, Igor. I'm with you. Let's do it.
oh, that's a whole other subject. Like I see a lot of the establishment and things that aren't working kind of breaking down, and there's so much positivity that's going on about that isn't being spoken of. And, I feel that and I see that and I interact that, and that's how I see and experience the world. So that's why I talk from that place. So yeah, that's where my optimism comes from.
I love that. That's beautiful. So let's just go back to the physiological and psychological things that are actually happening
Yeah.
when you're looking into somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening in your body when you are engaging in that exercise?
Well, I had the pleasure of witnessing, not witnessing, but yeah, I mean, Marina made me think about this. Marina Abramovich, the performance artist, like, because she worked with neuroscientists, and I'm forgetting her name. I really apologize, but I reached out to her and she was going to provide me with some tech that would be able to sort of analyze the brainwave states of our participants, and just to understand like what level of coherence came through when people were engaging in eye contact. And when she did the study with Marina over her artistics present campaign, exhibition, whatever you want to call it, they noticed that there was a brain wave coherence and synchronization between people that were creating eye contact. So what that actually means is that your mind becomes relaxed, and you come into this easeful space where you see yourself reflected in the eyes of another. And on top of that, the heart is the most powerful organ electromagnetically within the human body. I think it's like it emits like, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but like at least 6 times more electromagnetic energy than the brain, at least. And a lot of people don't pay attention to the heart. I remember when my heart was closed, I didn't know it was closed, but they're like, Igor, you got to get out of your head. You got to go into your heart. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, my heart's beating. What do you mean? What do you mean open my heart? Like, what does that even mean? Like, can you stop? Like, I couldn't even comprehend that. And I think that's where a lot of us are, and it's no one's fault. And you know, that's why love is on this planet, so that we can sort that out. Love is the great unifier. And so the heart synchronizes with the other participant as well. So there's a heart rate, I think it's called HRV, heart rate variability coherence. You can also check out like the Heart Math Institute. They talk about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had a look at those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not new. It's actually been around for maybe 20 years or even, but it is new in terms of consciousness expressing and talking about it in pop culture and stuff. But Yeah, so basically what happens is your central nervous system comes into a place of relaxation because the brainwave synchronization and heart rate synchronization comes into effect. And there's unification within the body. You feel on a cellular level that there's this like greater presence and awareness that emerges between you two, which creates this sense of oneness and unity. And that's the goal, unity consciousness, the understanding of unity consciousness. What is unity consciousness? Unity consciousness is the expressions of all in the one, of all, everything. And unity consciousness doesn't hold fear, it only holds everything. Love, one, unity, the expression of everything intertwined. Maybe that involves fear as well, actually. Who knows? But it recognizes itself from as it is. And when you recognize yourself as you are, you're not fragmented, you're whole. Your wholeness holds everything. And that's the objective with eye gazing is to come into your wholeness, to come into your oneness, to come into your highest expression of self and to tap into your unique abilities and expression and to share that with others.
So, what are some of the most profound changes that you have seen in other people, that you've worked with or where you have facilitated that process?
I think that a lot of people come in with variations of different trauma around abandonment or homophobia or present in their family or society or identity confusion. That's a huge one. Identity confusion is massive. And you can, I don't know, I kind of see that being weaponized right now. So it's identity is probably one of the most, I reckon, profound changes that I've witnessed in this whole experience because,
How would that manifest? Like, how would you describe that?
well, gender roles, number one, masculine, feminine. There's been a deep seated confusion around healthy masculine archetypes, healthy feminine archetypes. Women have been sort of suppressed for thousands of years because of their power they hold. The goddess within, which is one of the most beautiful and life giving, earth giving elements on this earth, has been suppressed because of its power, which has caused the manifestation of this patriarchal sort of, which is not even, the patriarchy is dying and everyone can see that. But it's taken a long time to get into this place of understanding of what the real healthy archetypes and ways of being and relating are for the masculine and feminine, and what it means to be a man. Maybe for some people, being a man was David Hasselhoff in Baywatch, being a lifeguard. Because that was such a popular show, and that was the leading man archetype, the ladies' man, but like the kind man. He was kind. I don't remember, but like I think he played a good character, but we've been warped, man. Like we've had so many warped ideologies and understandings of what man and woman is. It's been so confusing. So eye gazing helps you come into the expression of not what you're being told a man and woman is, but what you feel in the purest sense of what it means to be present with someone else when you're looking and exchanging with them and connecting with them. You feel a deeper sense of the oneness, of the unity that is everything. And, for me, the divine masculine is something that is extremely powerful, but it's also extremely slow in a sense that it's just very present and still. It doesn't have an axe and it's not like breaking shit and like roaring. It has the capacity to step into that sort of avenger hero archetype. But the divine masculine is very embodied. It's very pure. It's soft. Its strength is through its like, I don't need to show my power. I am the power, you know? It's fatherly, it's loving. So there's been a lot of archetypes around what it means to be a man that are unhealthy, which have confused a lot of people. And I mean, I can actually speak with the divine feminine. The divine feminine is just pure love. It's just open, it's free flowing, it's creative, it's adoration, it's sensuality, it's listening, geeky. There's so much depth to life. And I'm talking about not just the feminine in a woman, but the divine masculine and feminine within me.
Mm. Yeah, because we've all got everything in us, right?
Exactly. So learning to find those healthy representations of what it means to be a man and a woman is so important within identity to be able to come into an anchor in who we truly are and express who we are. And eye gazing allows you to witness, observe, and see what isn't in alignment and what is incongruent, and what programs or ideas or beliefs we have running that aren't actually equating to the source of who we are. And it allows us to come into deeper recognition of who we are. And I'd say that's the most important thing about life is like we need to learn how to come into deeper recognition of who we truly are and to truly express ourselves. And once we have the confidence to do that, we've made it, because once we can feel comfortable in our own shoes and we know that we're expressing the most authentic version of who we are, then you don't need to wait for your dreams to come true, because you're living your dreams. Because that is literally what I perceive to be one of the biggest initiations on this planet is, how do I become who I truly am and not what someone else wants me to be?
And so, based on that, would you say that the connection that's being facilitated is really helping people to wake up faster?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah, no. Because there's so many variations and ways to answer the question. Yes, 100% it accelerates your consciousness, but also there's a perfection to the timing that is your life. And I'm not preaching that everyone needs to get there at the same time, even though that would be great. But you could have a partner that isn't ready to be eye gaze with. Do you know how many partners I've had that while I'm doing this? Not that many, but like I've had people in my life that just couldn't do it. And it just brought up too much stuff. And that's perfectly fine. I'm with someone now that even though she can do it, it even still confronts her, but she's really good at it. And I really feel fulfilled. And I think there's a real sensibility to this where we cannot expect other people to be where we are or to have that same level of openness to experience something. There's a deep healing in being able to just accept people as to where they are and just allow them to be where they are. And there's just, I don't know I can't describe the feeling I have there, but there's just something even more healing in that than it would be to potentially eye gaze with them. It's a deeper lesson there.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Like it's something that I sometimes find myself confronted with, and just being really okay and supportive with that. And like you said, not everybody has the same timeline. Not
mm,
everybody needs to get there at the same time, or not everybody even wants to do it at this point in time. So
exactly.
it's like just having that understanding and that love for people to just do their thing and do it whenever it feels right for them. And again, it comes back to that, you don't want to expect something from somebody who's not ready to do it. It's their life, it's their journey, it's their path. So they need to do it when, yeah,
And you
when
can
they
have,
feel called for it.
yep, and you can have different people. Like, this is another topic, but intimacy doesn't necessarily have to stop with just your partner. You can have intimacy with other people and experience eye gazing as a form of intimacy where you get filled and you really get to explore the deeper parts of your consciousness, so that when you come home to your partner, you feel full and then you get to really appreciate more of where they are. And then I'll tell you, as a byproduct of that, then they do want to eye gaze. you
I
know,
love that. I love that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they feel that you're full, you don't need them, and that they're curious. So, yeah, just an idea.
Yeah. No, I like that concept. So, Igor, where are you at the moment? How has it profoundly impacted you, and where would you say you are?
I feel the deepest learning that's come through is as things expand and as opportunities arise, and you start to begin to witness and feel that you can manifest and create the life of your dreams, and that the people that you dreamed of are there, and they are coming in and opportunities are coming in. There's a stage where that begins to happen for everyone if they choose that. And what has been most present for me is to understand that as I expand, that the biggest gift I can offer, my lover or my friends or my family or whoever it is, whether you have a partner or a lover, partner, same thing, right? Is that you have to stay in your own center. You have to stay within yourself. The job is to stay grounded and anchored and to keep things really simple and to allow yourself to really let go and surrender anything that you feel like you're controlling, that you feel you need to control out of fear that you're going to lose it. Because that is just the ego and the mind that is coming in to play with you, to help you to see where you are still not trusting in who you truly are and experiencing and embodying unconditional love. And once we begin to really embody unconditional love, we will not hold on to anything. We will admire a flower and just allow the flower to be. We won't pick it, as Osho says. And that generates this volume of light that creates sustainability and it creates more momentum and love and expression to unfold because there's a deeper wisdom in that expression. So I would say that I'm in this process of learning to surrender deeper into my life, to let go deeper, to trust deeper, to love deeper, be more honest, and to keep things simple because as things do magnify and accelerate, you can get jittery, you can get excited, you can get ungrounded, and you can start creating stories, and the ego can get involved. So I'd say I'm at this point where I've been brought back in and I'm going to be focusing on operating my life in a miracle minded way, but in a simple way. Not too much definition or explanation or story, but just simple, present acceptance, observation without judgment, and then allowing the greater parts of me to unfold from that place.
That's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful ending statement, I would say. Thank you so much for gifting me your time today and for having this chat. I really, really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. My sincerest pleasure. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Thanks for asking that question because that's really it's really recent that I have come into that place. So it's good to verbalize it and feel what it feels like in my body.
Amazing, amazing. So, Igor, the three main pieces of wisdom that stood out for me today was that, eye gazing, it really like on a physiological and psychological level does so much to you and your body. There's brainwave coherence, your mind becomes relaxed, your heart rate starts to synchronize and unify, and you just really start to unify on a cellular level. And that creates a unity consciousness where everything comes into one and doesn't hold you back anymore. The second point was that if you come from a place of resistance, you start creating from that place. While if you come into a deeper sense of recognition of who you really are, then you start expressing from your most authentic self. And as a third point, it was really the concept of surrendering, and being okay with surrendering and letting go, because only once you surrender, that is when energy starts moving through you and starts creating things for you that are meant to happen for you.
Yes, perfect, simple and powerful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Igor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Igor, if people want to get in touch with you, there is the website, thehumanconnectionmovement.org.au,
Yeah.
or they can also find you on Instagram under at the HC Movement, or your personal one at I'm Igor Kreyman.
Yeah. Yeah. So the offerings are on our website, thehumanconnectionmovement.org.au, and then there's like a timetable for individual one-on-one sessions or partnered sessions. So if you want to come in and experience eye gazing with your husband or your wife or your brother or your sister or a family member or a friend, and you're facilitated by a practitioner like myself or Amy. And then there's also a group timetable. So if you're overseas and you're like, oh, I want to experience this, but I can't get there, then we have online workshops that happen every fortnight. And then if you're in Sydney or the Northern Rivers at the moment, we're going to be restarting the face-to-face workshops as well. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Finally, hey?
Yeah.
After a bit of a break.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's all perfect timing. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise to have a bit of a break and to just replenish yourself. So yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you everybody for listening today. I really hope you got something out of that episode. There was so much knowledge and wisdom in there from Igor, and so many different concepts of, how you can really create the life that you truly want to live and not that somebody else wants you to live. So yeah, please go and look into people's eyes, even if it does make you uncomfortable at the beginning, just give it a go, try it out. Otherwise, I don't know, do it with your dog. Does it work with animals as well?
I've been doing it with my cat recently. Dogs love
Here
it
we
too.
go.
Yeah, I've done it with a dog a couple of days ago. A new one too, not even mine. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in this practice, so just try it out with somebody. Please also do share the podcast with your family, your friends, or anybody you think might benefit from the information and from the knowledge that you've received today. I really hope this episode brought some sunshine to your soul. I'm sending love and light your way, and until next time.